Hello there, how are you? So glad you could make it. Or should I say thank you for sticking around. Bit of a technical hitch. Sorry we're starting late, but we made it in the end. That's the main thing. So welcome to our biggest webinar of the year, TrendWatching's 5 Key Trends for 2018. I'm broadcasting to you from the TrendWatching headquarters in the heart of London, but there are thousands of you tuned in from all over the world, Beijing to Boston, Reykjavik to Rio. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, as the case may be. Thank you so much for joining me for this trend webinar. It will be worth it. Lots of you know me already. We've spoken before. I'm David Mattin, Global Head of Trends and Insights here at TrendWatching, head of the team, spotting the trends, thinking about the trends, writing about the trends, bringing the trends to you guys. So are you ready? Are you strapped in for the trend fun we are about to have? Because we are going to look at 5 key consumer trends for 2018. These are trends reshaping the mindsets, the behaviors, the expectations of consumers all over the world in the coming months and beyond. Trends that can empower you to build your next product, your next service, devise your next campaign, scheme out your next business model, build your next brand, and know that they are grounded in the emerging expectations of consumers. A little bit of housekeeping before we start. If you want to tweet along as I talk, please do so. Use the hashtag TrendWebinar, and you can find us at Twitter at TrendWatching, of course. Now, before we get right into it, I should say that if you're a premium client, then these 5 trends, and you already know this, these 5 trends won't be new to you because you've already received the digital version of your big 2018 trend report based on our mega trend framework of 16 mega trends. It contains 16 new trends for 2018, including these 5. You'll have dived into it already, I have no doubt. Lots in there for you to absorb, more examples, more innovations, more insights, more statistics, all of that. There it is, look at it in all its beauty, or at least there's some of it. So you will have already dived into your digital copy of the trend report. If you haven't already, then please do so. And of course, you know your beautiful hardback copy is winging its way to you in the next few weeks. And that's just one tiny part, of course, of your online premium service. These 5 trends don't come from nowhere. And again, you premium clients out there know this already. They're drawn from our mega trend framework, the 16 big mega trends we track, those 16 big mega trends that encompass our view of the entire consumer arena. We're going to look today at mega trends like Ubitech, the endless ubiquity of technology in our lives today. We're going to look at helpful, the mega trend that we use to track convenience, customer service. So this is where these trends come from. And again, if you're a premium client, dive into the mega trend framework, get that extra context on the evolution of these trends, where they've come from, because that will help you think about where they're going next. Say to those of you, and I know there's many of you, most of you out there who are not premium clients. Of course, you're a trend-savvy audience. You're a special audience because you have tuned into this webinar. You're special to us. You're special to me for that reason, especially given that you hung around for so long. So we've done something special for you, just a little something special for you to say thank you for tuning in today. And that is, we've given you a promo code, that's webinar 10, that you can use to get 10% off our premium service for 2018. So that trend report I talked to you about, the premium service, dive in, tens of thousands of innovations, hundreds of trends we're tracking, tools to help you apply those trends. You can get 10% off that premium service if you use this promo code webinar 10, and also an additional 10% off the early bird price for our 2018 seminar. So London, Amsterdam, New York, Singapore, Stockholm, happening early next year. Again, use that promo code webinar 10. So go to TrendWatching. If that sounds interesting to you, employ that promo code. It won't last forever, of course, maybe a week or 2, just about long enough to run this by your team if you need to. But your team will love you if you do this. Don't run it past them. They'll be fine. And if they're not fine, just send them to me. I'll talk to them. Or not, maybe. You probably should run it past your team. But there we are, just a little something to say thank you. Okay, let's get into it, because it has been an incredible 12 months. I can't believe that it is 12 months since I last sat here talking to you on an end-of-year webinar. Of course, we've had our finger on the pulse of consumerism all across the globe. That's what we do at TrendWatching. We've seen ever more millions bringing big and helpful Big Brother into their own home. These devices Alexa, Google Home, AI-fueled smart devices that are turning into butlers for people to use. And we're going to look at what that means in the coming trends. In Shanghai, we saw one of the world's first totally automated smartphone-operated stores. Okay, just go there, scan your smartphone to open the door, scan the products you're going to buy, walk out the door, no staff, no human beings involved except you. That is a reality now. And again, we're going to look at what that means and where it's heading in the trends to come. We saw the world's first supercar vending machine in Singapore. Just crazy. And yes, who could forget the inner turbulence at Uber? Travis has left the building after arguing with his Uber driver, cultivating a culture of sexism and bullying, and so on. We all saw deep inside the heart, you might say the bowels of Uber and its internal culture in 2017. Lots of us didn't like what we saw. We're going to look at why that happened and what it means, why it's such a powerful moment for transparency when we get into the trends that are coming. It can feel like an avalanche out there when you look across the consumer arena. You know, we're all people who are deeply interested in what's going on in innovation in the consumer arena. When you look across it in that way, it can just feel like an avalanche. New products, new services, new campaigns, new trends, new information. It can feel very hard to know just how to orient yourself among that, let alone how to make sense of it, how to devise a meaningful response. Okay, but of course that's what we at TrendWatching are all about. So as I say, I'm head of the team looking out to the world of consumerism, to the world of consumer-facing innovation in a structured way, just trying to join the dots, spot some of the newly emerging signals, spot the new directions of travel, really spot the trends. That's what we at TrendWatching are all about. Now, of course, when I say trends, I'm open to be misunderstood, even after having talked about them for so many years, and I understand that. When I talk about trends, I don't mean this kind of thing. I don't mean fads. I don't mean the latest widget or gadget or toy that your 9-year-old child wants, okay, or maybe that you want. I don't mean that. I don't mean what's viral online. I don't just mean new technology. I really have a definition of a consumer trend that goes like this, okay? You can see it on your screen now. Just take a moment to absorb it. But essentially what we're talking about is a new manifestation of a fundamental human need, want, or desire. Okay, and I just want to take a step back from that definition, unpack it somewhat, because that will be really useful for everything that we're about to cover in the trends that are coming. So we have this model of consumer trends and how they emerge that goes like this. On the one hand, there's change. The world is changing around us all the time. You know, technological change, social change, economic change. We live with very rapid change. We're used to that. Okay. On the other hand, there's human nature, which fundamentally does not change that much over time. So we human beings are motivated by this set of basic needs and wants: connection, value, security, love, excitement, whatever it is. They are very stable over time. At their most fundamental, they do not really change decade on decade, century on century. Now, our model of how new consumer trends emerge simply says this. It says new trends emerge when external change unlocks some new way of serving a basic human need. Trends are about new ways to serve age-old basic human needs. And crucially, we think you can see that happening. You can see that at work. When you look out to the world of innovation, the new products, the new services, the new campaigns, and you ask yourself, is this innovation and how is this innovation serving a basic human need in a new way? Okay, and that's really what we at TrendWatching are all about. We're looking out to the world of innovation for those innovations that are serving basic human needs in new ways, because those innovations create trends. Another way of saying all this really is I am looking for the innovations that create new customer expectations. Okay, because when an innovation comes along that serves a basic human need in a new way, it changes human beings. It creates new habits. It creates new behaviors. It creates new values, new mindsets. Really, it creates new expectations of what other brands can do for me as a consumer. And the crucial thing about those expectations is once they've been created in that way, they spread. They will spread across markets, across industries, across demographics, across geographical borders, and eventually they will spread all the way to your door. Whoever you are, whatever brand you are or agency you are, they'll spread all the way to your door. And those new expectations spreading Really, that's simply what a trend is. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about a trend, okay? That's why we are, and lots of you will have heard this before many times, we are so passionate about telling you guys that you live and work in an expectation economy, okay? An economy, a consumer arena where expectations are accelerating all the time and new expectations are heading your way all the time. So really, you should be asking yourself, who are we really competing against? It's not just the other people in your industry. It's not just the other people who happen to be geographically around you. It is those innovations, those brands, those businesses, those startups that are serving basic human needs in new ways and creating the new consumer expectations, the new human expectations that eventually will spread all the way to your door. Okay, that's what tracking trends is all about. It's about getting a handle. It's about getting an early warning on those new expectations. And that's why everything we do is about looking out to the world of innovation in a structured way and trying to spot those expectations as they are emerging. Everything we do is fueled by this. This is the TrendWatching Insight Network, a network of thousands of people all around the world. I know lots of you are members of it, sending us innovations, new products, new services, new campaigns, sending us innovation examples from their markets all the time. And as I say, I'm head of the team, joining the dots between those innovations, interrogating them. How are these innovations serving basic human needs in new ways? Joining the dots between them, spotting the new directions of travel, spotting the trends, okay? And we're gonna look at 5 of those trends today. I would love you to take just one light bulb moment from this webinar. That's one innovation you see where you're like, yes, I can see the expectations at work here. I'm going to take this back to my team. You know, it's not the innovation itself I'm interested in necessarily. It's the underlying lesson about the emerging expectations. I'm going to take this back to my team. I'm going to tell them about that. I can see how we can innovate to serve this newly emerging expectation. Okay, if you have just one of those moments, I hope you'll have a whole load of them. If you have just one of those moments during this webinar, it will have been well worth it, because that could transform next year for you. It could be your next winning, your next game-changing product, service, campaign, business model. Okay, with all that said, let's dive right in to the first trend. And trend number 1 starts here. Let's start with a very simple, very clear basic human need. I've told you that trends are all about new ways to serve basic human needs. So let's start with a very simple basic human need. Convenience. Everyone wants their life to be easy. Everyone wants their life to be just that bit more convenient, frictionless. They want service. They want things to be made easy for them. At the same time, we have a very interesting external change looming over all of that. Looming over a lot of stuff, really, but looming particularly over the basic human need that is convenience, and that is AI. Okay, consumer awareness of AI is rising. How could it not? They see Google's DeepMind beating the world's best Go player. They know that all this AI innovation is going on. Consumers now are beginning to expect brands and businesses to put AI to work to serve their basic human needs. And convenience is definitely one of the basic human needs that they expect AI to be able to get to work on. So we have the makings there, the classic building blocks of a trend. We have an external change in the world, that's AI, unlocking a new way to serve a basic human need that is convenience, okay? And in 2017, we've seen that play out most in one particular industry, and that is retail, okay? Commerce, shopping, retail, really. We've seen AI really unlock new ways to serve convenience when it comes to the retail industry. Now, there are a couple of reasons why it's particularly relevant in that industry, in retail. Consumers have already interacted with, or at least seen, some innovations that have really primed them to expect AI to get to work on their retail behaviors, and for some of their retail behaviors to be automated. And I say primed, no pun intended, of course. You know, we all remember these from way back, Amazon Dash buttons, you know, one-touch ordering, automate an aspect of my retail behavior. I promised you we'd mention this again, big and helpful brother. We've come back around to it quickly. You know, again, shopping through Alexa, shopping through Siri or Google Home has primed consumers to expect, to a certain extent, AI and automation to now get to work to make their retail behaviors, to make their retail experiences easier. When you put all that together, you come to my first trend. My first trend is called A-commerce. We've had e-commerce way back in ancient history, m-commerce, of course, totally standard. In 2018, we're saying one of the key trends that should be on your radar is a-commerce, automated commerce. And just as I've said, this trend is all about consumers sourcing certain aspects of their retail experiences and their retail behaviors to AIs, to algorithms, to AI-fueled smart devices. And I just want to show you how that is playing out, show you some examples of how we see that playing out. Here's one great example to start with. This is Finery. This was launched in March 2017. It's essentially an AI-fueled online wardrobe fashion retail manager. So first of all, Finery will go into your email account, scan all your emails, find all your recent fashion, and just consolidate them all in one virtual wardrobe for you, and it will sort them out according to type and color and all of that. But it will also sync with a browser so that when you're shopping online for clothes, you can put any items that you're interested in into your virtual wardrobe, and then Finery will get to work for you, because what it will do is it will start to tell you when the price of that item changes, or it will tell you, oh, did you know you could get that pair of trousers, you know, in a different place. And if you do buy them, it will start to give you information on when the returns window is closing, because we all know returns is a big deal when you're shopping online for clothes. So it will use thinking on your behalf to just outsource some of your fashion retail for you, to make it easier, to make it more convenient. And that is a great example of what we're calling e-commerce, just this trend for the automation of certain aspects of retail and shopping behaviors. Massively play out, not just online, but also in physical stores. I mean, we all remember Amazon's cashierless store opening in Seattle, but of course it hasn't actually opened yet. They announced it hasn't opened. In July, we saw the Chinese e-tail giant Taobao debut this that you're looking at now, the Tao Cafe, which is a totally automated physical location. So you scan your door at the phone, you grab what you need, there's no human beings or staff involved, you walk out with the products that you've got, and the bill is just automatically sent to your phone and to your Taobao account. So again, just a totally automated retail experience in a physical location. And we've seen this going on around the world. In India, we saw the supermarket chain Hypercity do it. Eatsy are partnering with the dining chain in the US, Wow to automate the food retail experience in physical locations. So this trend, e-commerce, is a big deal, clearly a big deal online, but it's also going to be a big deal in physical locations. Consumers are going to expect the automation of their physical retail experiences in 2018. A different angle on this, budgeting, sort of financial planning, managing your money. This is WeSwap. This is a UK-based travel community. They launched an interesting feature in September 2017. It's an AI-fueled feature that gives users advice on how much money they should expect to spend in certain travel destinations. And it does that by amalgamating and crunching data on what other users spent in that destination, coupled with your preferences and your profile and who you are. It can put all that together to tell you, you should expect when you go to Brooklyn or when you go to Beijing or when you go to Cape Town to spend this much money in that location. And again, as it learns more about you and your profile and your behaviors over time, it crunches that data, and the recommendations and advice on your personal budgeting will become more and more accurate. Okay, so e-commerce doesn't have to apply strictly to shopping, you know, the sourcing, the purchasing, the delivery. It can also apply to financial planning and financial management. It's a great example of expectation spreading and the big players responding to them. The big banks, this is Santander, can see these expectations coming down the pipeline. Okay, they know that innovations like WeSwap are happening. They've seen Plum in the UK, which is another AI-fueled app to help you manage your personal finances. They've seen Neat in Singapore that we saw launch this year, which is an app and a debit card that again uses AI to help you manage your personal finances. They know these innovations are creating new expectations, and now we see the big players responding to those emerging expectations. So this is Santander launching its own app, kind of chatbot that you can use to manage your account. You can do it with voice recognition, you can make payments, all of that. And Santander says that in a subsequent iteration that it will launch in 2018, there will be AI-fueled personal financial management for you. So it's seeing those expectations coming and it is responding to them. And that's what you guys need to think about doing too. Now, where is all this heading? Have entered a patent to fill for a sort of scheme, a system basically that will fill your home with sensors, and they'll say they'll know everything about you, up including to when you're just about to run out of toothpaste, so they can send you some more toothpaste before you run out. So this, which is one of the most dismal sights in any bathroom, I grant you, will never happen to you. You will never be toothpaste to death to try to get the last bit out, because Walmart would have sent you some more in advance. Okay, that is way out there. It's just a patent, but this is where this trend is, or this is one potential direction in which this trend is heading. Okay, towards ever greater automation of our retail experiences, even in the home. Of course, there are massive data privacy issues around that. Often when I present, very, very often get asked, but what about data privacy? Will consumers be happy to give up this data? No one has a crystal ball in that respect. No one can give a firm answer. Time and again, we see consumers say, I'm happy to give up some of my personal data if I feel I get something in response for it that's reasonable and I understand what they're doing with my data. You really have to take it on a case-by-case basis. But if you were thinking that, then yes, you are right. Data privacy is a key issue with this e-commerce trend, and any innovation around e-commerce is going to have to think carefully about how you handle the data privacy aspects of it and how you communicate to consumers transparently what you're doing with their data and what they're getting in return. You to take a light bulb moment from that first trend. This can be a highly tactical trend, in that in the first quarter of 2018, you could respond to it. You could build something like Finery. You could build something like WeSwap that automates a certain aspect of the retail, the engagement experience with you. But this is also a very deep philosophical trend that poses some huge questions that really strike at the heart of just the nature of consumerism and really come down to what is consumerism? And what will it mean, and how will your messaging work and your marketing work, and what does your brand mean in a world where we start selling to algorithms rather than to human beings? Okay, when it's an AI or an algorithm, a smart device that is engaging with your brand and making purchasing decisions, how do you need to change? Okay, that's the opening question to an amazing 2-day long workshop with your marketing team in 2018, with your product development, with your brand team, with your strategy team in 2018, because obviously it is a huge question. But racing on to trend number 2, because we have lots of trends to get through. And trend number 2 starts with this thought, and it's a thought you've heard from us before. Consumer behavior in 2017, in 2018, is becoming more complex, more diverse than ever. We are lucky enough, most of us in many markets around the world, to live at a time when people are just more free than ever to construct lifestyles and mindsets, ways of living and ways of thinking of their own choosing, to break free from the old determinism that said if you're a certain age and gender and sexuality and all of that, you should behave and live and think in a certain way. Certainly in affluent markets around the world, not universally around the world, but many markets around the world, the direction is towards greater personal freedom, empowerment. And that means more complex, more varied, more chaotic, even consumer behavior. And that's one of the big mega trends that we track here at TrendWatching. Again, if you're a premium client, you'll know it well. We call it post-demographic consumerism, this move towards more diverse, more complex consumer behavior for that whole host of reasons I talked about and others. You see it in the world around you all the time. We saw it in plenty of signs of it in 2017 when Pharrell Williams is in an advert essentially for a Chanel handbag. You know that lifestyles and mindsets and tastes are changing. And now one of the many consequences of this is that we're seeing shifting narratives of adulthood. We're seeing adulthood disrupted, essentially, the way people think about it, what it means to them, the way they choose to live it or even potentially avoid it. We're seeing that be disrupted, be changed. And that's partly a story of personal empowerment and the kinds of social changes I talked about. So we see plenty of statistics like this: 20% of 28 to 37-year-old men in Shanghai are unmarried. In 2005, it was just 12%. You imagine most of that is by choice. It's just about changing social mores, changing social conventions that allow people to live as they want to live and be the people they want to be instead of be the people they're being told to be by society. But it's not just personal empowerment and choice that's driving all this. It's also economic pressures that are rewriting narratives of adulthood. And we're all very familiar with those, certainly in Western markets, wage stagnation, rising inequality, rocketing asset prices, including house prices, mean that for many people, lots of the traditional staging posts of adulthood are just out of reach in ways that they weren't. Look at this statistic: 50% of 25 to 35-year-olds in the US live at home. In 2000, it was just 10%. So you see more people being forced, and I'm going to use that word advisedly, but I'm guessing mostly it's not by choice, to live with their parents because they can't afford to move out and get their own home. So on the one hand, yes, changing social mores, changing conventions. On the other hand, economic pressure is creating a cauldron of shifts that's seeing narratives of adulthood be rewritten. Okay, I mean, you get lots of people talking about, oh, kids these days don't want to grow up, they're irresponsible, they don't know they're born, all this stuff. I suspect those are things that have always been said by older people about younger people, but I'm really talking about a deeper, more meaningful shift that's seeing younger people question the traditional narratives of adulthood and also rewrite them, and to a certain extent be excluded from traditional narratives of adulthood about buying your own home and having enough money to get married and have children and all of that. But do you really want to do that? We're seeing all of that disrupted. When you put all that together, you come to our second trend, which is called assisted development. And assisted development, very simply, is about saying in 2018, consumers will expect brands to turn their attention to these new narratives of adulthood that they're writing, to give them some love and attention, to support them to achieve traditional life goals in new ways, to rewrite narratives of adulthood in their own way, to new personal goals that are reimagined versions of the traditional staging posts of adulthood, and all of that. And I just want to show you some examples of how we see this trend, assisted development, playing out. Here's a great one to start with. This is Loftium. This is a US-based startup with an intriguing business model, intriguing idea, because Loftium will loan you the deposit, the down payment you need to buy a home, as long as you, the homeowner, then agree to perpetually rent out one room in that home on Airbnb and split the rental income with Loftium. So it's a business model based on the idea that you can generate rental income from Airbnb. Just a great example of a brand leveraging some of the digital superpowers that consumers have now, in this case, the sharing economy, to help them achieve a traditional staging post of adulthood in a very innovative way. We know that asset prices, house prices have rocketed in many markets. This is a startup saying, let's work together to leverage the sharing economy to help you, youngish person, get your first foot on the housing market, on the housing ladder. And that's a great example of the trend that we call assisted development. Here's another one, because it doesn't have to be about huge staging posts of adulthood like buying your first home. It can just be about the micro tasks that adults are expected to be able to manage in their daily life, but that can be difficult and that we want to impress our friends with perhaps, but we can't because we don't really know what we're doing. So this is BuzzFeed, of all people. It's a surprising one from them, partnering with GE to create this. This is the Tasty one-top cooking device. You can see it there underneath the pan. It's a smart cooking device that syncs to BuzzFeed's Tasty recipe app and then basically walks the user through a recipe. to the app, select a recipe, and then this cooking top will automatically adjust in terms of temperature and cooking mode as the recipe progresses. It will hold your hand and walk you through that recipe. So just a tiny example there, just a tiny helping hand when it comes to an everyday adulting task. That is a great example of what we would call assisted development. Just help these wannabe adults or people who are avoiding adulthood or who are rewriting their narrative of adulthood, help them get done the things they want to get done. It doesn't have to be a product or a service. You can apply the trend assisted development if you acknowledge and celebrate and just talk to consumers about these new narratives of adulthood that they are writing. So this is the Japanese cosmetics and beauty brand SK-II. They've run a series of ads. The most recent we saw in July 2017 was this one, a series of ads just encouraging young Asian women and Asian society at large to rethink some of the gendered assumptions about the path through adulthood that young Asian women should take. So this particular one was about saying, why in Asia are we still somewhat obsessed with the idea that young women should be married before the age of 30, and if they're not married before the age of 30, they have quote unquote failed. Okay, let's question that old social assumption because it really is outdated, it's unfair, it's outmoded, it's not true. If you can talk to consumers in a language they will understand and respect about the challenges they're facing, the new narratives of adulthood they're writing, the social shifts that they are living among, that they are embracing or that they're recoiling from, whatever it is, if you can do that, then that can be a hugely powerful way of applying this trend assisted development. Because of course we know that man and woman cannot live by bread alone. Okay, the world is not just about material things. It's about support and emotional sustenance and feeling that you're understood and that your life means something. That's crucial too. And you can apply this trend to serve those needs too. So I would love you to take a light bulb moment there. I'm going to go out there and say pretty much any brand should be able to come up with multiple innovation ideas when it comes to this trend, how you could apply it in 2018. Think about who your customers are. Think about the paths through adulthood that they are trying to navigate, that they're trying to negotiate, and how you can help them. Okay, when it came to Loftium, it was about buying your own home, huge thing. When it came to BuzzFeed and GE, it was something as simple as just, cooking dinner. This Japanese beauty brand spoke to young women about the social assumptions that to a certain extent hold them back and how they can challenge those. How can you offer a product, a service, a message, a story that speaks to your customers and potential customers about their new narratives of adulthood? If you can do that, it's a really, really powerful trend to apply in 2018 because the deep forces pushing this trend, the social changes, the economic pressures are not going anywhere in 2018 or even for the next, 5-10 years. This trend is founded in hugely powerful forces you can harness if you apply it. Okay, racing on to trend number 3, back somewhat to technology where we started out. Let's have a look at this external change in the world. 394% increase in time spent inside messaging apps in 2016. That is insane. I mean, who thought we could spend any more time in messaging apps than we do? But yes, we can. Consumers are spending a whole lot of time inside messaging apps. And of course, we all know that messaging apps have primed hundreds of millions of people for a behavior that they're currently engaging in. That's conversations with chatbots. A whole load of brands have launched chatbots by now. Consumers are engaging in conversation with those chatbots all the time. In fact, Gartner, the technology analysis firm, says that forecasts that by 2020, the average person will have more conversations with bots than with their spouse. The funniest or the most depressing statistic I took out of the consumer arena in 2017, but there we have it. Perhaps you already are having more conversations with bots than with your spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend. I don't know, but that's pretty crazy. From messaging apps serving the basic human need that is social connection, to priming us to feel very natural, for consumers to feel very natural about engaging with chatbots. We see a whole load of brands leveraging chatbots largely for kind of functional, transactional purposes. This is Capital One launching its own chatbot, manage your bank account using emoji, what fun. You know, we see tons of that. But we are now seeing, with this behavior being so prevalent, interaction with chatbots, interactions with virtual entities like personal assistants, Siri, Google Home. With those interactions being so prevalent now, we are seeing a shift. We're seeing people start to use them to address deeper needs that go beyond the functional or the transactional. And I'm going to go out there and say it. Don't pretend that late at night you haven't had a pretty deep and meaningful conversation with Siri. In fact, Apple know we are doing this, and that is why they are on the hunt for people with a counseling and a psychology background Siri team, so that Siri can start to have more serious conversations, and that is a quote from Apple, more serious conversations with us as consumers. Okay, but really the shift I want to get at is we are seeing a shift from interacting with chatbots and personal assistants and virtual entities of all kinds for purely functional, transactional reasons, to interacting with them for deeper reasons around our deeper needs, like wellness in its most holistic sense, a more balanced life, happiness, health, even friendship. Now that might sound, or consumers are interacting with virtual entities for those kinds of deep reasons, might sound totally sci-fi, it might sound a bit Black Mirror. But when you think about the deep shifts that have led us here, you know, hundreds of millions of people first using messaging apps, then become accustomed to chatbots, you can see it's founded in very deep forces, very deep shifts that are pushing us to view communication with virtual entities as a perfectly natural thing, okay? And when you put all that together, you come to our third trend, virtual companions, which, just as I've said, is about saying in 2018, this shift really happening powerfully, okay? We're gonna see virtual entities make the shift from being purely functional and transactional to being about deeper needs, such as wellness, entertainment, healing, and even friendship, making the leap from assistants to true companions. That's what this trend is all about. And I want to show you some examples of how that's playing out. Where does this trend start? It starts with virtual companions that still really have 1.5 feet, very deep, firmly founded in assistance and functionality. So this is KLM's wearable care tag. They gave it to visitors to Amsterdam in September 2017. You can see it there. It's just a little wearable tag. It's GPS enabled. It doesn't need the internet to work. And as you walked around Amsterdam, you heard KLM crew members giving you friendly advice about the city. Oh, this is my favorite restaurant. This is my favorite place to have lunch. Watch out for this, you know, junction here. It gets a bit crazy when it's the rush hour. Don't forget to lock your bike here, and all that kind of thing. So just a little virtual companion for you, fueled by KLM staff to help you feel at home as you walked around Amsterdam. Really, it's still founded in functionality and being helpful to you, but there is that hint of companionship to it, especially because you're hearing human voices who are so familiar with this city, who are being friendly, who want to give you some friendly advice. That's where this trend starts. So you can see it doesn't start in anything that feels too crazy, too sci-fi, too Black Mirror. Okay, but where do innovations like this and our obsession with chatbots start to lead us? They lead us to innovations like this, and this is really where the virtual companions trend comes to life. This is really where it blossoms. This is an app called a chatbot called Replica. It was launched in the first quarter of 2017. Replica is an AI-fueled chatbot that wants to learn all about the user. So you open the chatbot, you start talking to it, asks you a ton of questions about yourself, your personality, your family, your habits, your friends, the things you like and dislike. It's learning from you over time, and it's using AI to fuel that learning, to crunch the data you're giving it, to fuel its natural language processing. And over time, it's going to learn more and more about you and start to become a mirror image of your personality. And the idea is that once you've evolved your replica to a very high level, you then have a mirror image of your personality that is delivering deep insight to you on who you really are as a person, what you are really like. Okay, so deep insight into yourself is the idea behind Replica, but of course we can imagine all kinds of similar chatbots where you evolve a personality similar to yours and then you sort of sell it or you present it to other people for their entertainment. You know, lots of potential applications of this kind of thing. But one lesson I would love you to draw out is that the idea that you can turn to an AI-fueled chatbot now for genuine human interaction, or for genuine insight into yourself, or for genuine companionship is starting to emerge. And that is a profound shift. Innovations like this will profoundly rewire and shift the mindsets, the expectations of consumers, and they will bring those expectations to your brand. Now, where does this head? Where does it go even on from here? This is the Japanese virtual holographic pop star Hatsune Miku. Google her, check out her YouTube videos. It's insane. She's a holographic pop star. She gives massive concerts to thousands of people. AI writes her music. She's released like 100,000 songs. It's totally nuts. Cafe recently hosted an experience where every table was fitted out with a Lenovo tablet, and using augmented reality, you could sit and dine with Hatsune. So you could see her, you could interact with her, you could talk to her. And if this virtual pop star is well known to you, and she's extremely well known to millions of people in Japan and across Asia, South Korea, then that is a big deal. Okay, you're sitting there having lunch with this virtual entity, but that is meaningful to you, it's exciting to you. And that really is where all this is heading. Now that might sound a bit niche, you see a lot of very cutting edge, bleeding edge, niche things going on, especially in Japan. That might sound a bit niche to you. It really isn't niche, okay? I'm not suggesting that you are going to employ build your own virtual pop star and host an experience with her. I'm looking to you to draw out the underlying expectation that virtual entities become true companions, become about more than just assistance or functionality, become about companionship, friendship, entertainment, wellness. And just look at this statistic. I mean, sure, Hatsune Miku might be a bit niche, but 72% of regular voice technology users say they think brands should have their own unique voices and not just use the assistant on my phone. So this is becoming a mainstream expectation. And the way you apply it, your innovation that meets this expectation, does not have to be super high tech, okay? It doesn't have to be a holographic pop star or an AI-fueled chatbot that learns all about the user. Just think about Slackbot if you use Slack. Just a very, very low tech application that injects some personality into Slack. Okay, that has a voice, that gives Slack its own voice, and in this case, it's an informal, friendly, fun voice. Okay, how can you do that in 2018? By this trend, virtual companions, when you start to think about digital interactions with you. It doesn't have to be about an entirely new innovation. It could just be about building some personality, building some voice, building aspects of companionship into the existing digital interactions that you have. But if you take this trend back to your team, you ask them, what does a world of virtual companions mean for us? Again, that's a hugely powerful question to be asking in 2018. Okay, now racing on to trend number 4, because we've still got a couple of trends to get through. Trend number 4 starts here with this basic human need, and this shift too, really, in the consumer arena. Service, convenience, ease is a basic human need we've already talked about. When you look out to the consumer arena in 2017, it's almost as though we couldn't go any further. We've passed the event horizon when it comes to the many ways in which we serve that basic human need. We've gone so far that in 2017, we saw Qantas start to offer first-class passengers their own menu of pillows. You pick your own pillow from a menu of different pillows if you're flying Qantas in first class. How much further can we go when it comes to customer service in 2018? So service is a basic human need, expectations accelerating around it all the time. One angle on that One interesting angle on that is that consumers have been primed really by their lives online to expect an ecosystem or an experience of constant upgrades. If you think about your online experience or your experience with your phone, you're constantly being upgraded by the next operating system, the next software patch, the next version, the next update. A powerful expectation of constant upgrades and improvements and enhancements. And as happens so often, an expectation that has been created online is now shifting offline. It's rewiring consumers to expect constant upgrades and improvements and enhancements in the physical world around them too, not just for their online products and services. Throw into the mix that 78% of consumers say they retract loyalty faster than they did just 3 years ago, and you have all the makings of the fourth trend that I want to share with you, and that's this trend, forgiving by design. Okay, and forgiving by design is all about saying in 2018, consumers who've been primed to expect this constant experience of upgrades and improvements and enhancements. These consumers will embrace brands that can offer products and services that almost magically adapt around their wants, their needs, their whims after purchase. So this is about products and services that after purchase adapt around the changing consumer. And they've been primed to expect that by this experience of constant upgrades online. They've been primed to expect that by the crazy heights that customer service has been taken to in 2015, 2016, 2017. And I want to show you some examples of how this trend, forgiving by design, is playing out. This is a great place to start. This is a hugely intriguing example. So this is July 2017. We saw MasterCard partner with a UK-based financial services and a financial tool called Curve. And via this partnership, they offered a service that is very intriguing. And this service was you could use any card to make a purchase, and then up to, I think it was 2 weeks after purchase, you could swap the card that you used retroactively. Okay, so if you made a purchase using one card and then you realized that you would get more points, or you would get a discount, or you would get air miles if you used a different card, you could use this service to retroactively swap the card that you used to make the purchase. And that is a great and hugely intriguing example of what we're calling forgiving by design. Post-purchase adaptation around the needs, the wants, the whims of the consumer. So let me make a decision, make a purchase at one point in time. After that point in time, weeks, maybe months afterwards, let me change it, change that decision, or change your product or service around the way I have changed in the meantime. And this example is a great example of that. This is a fitness brand. They did something very interesting. They offered discounts to customers existing customers, so customers who had already bought clothes from their store and then changed size in the intervening time. So if you bought some clothes and then six months went by and you lost weight or you gained muscle mass or whatever, if you changed size, you could come back to that store and get a significant discount on clothes that would fit your current size, okay? So again, a really interesting example of post-purchase adaptation, of turning basically a product purchase, in this case, into a service that adapts around the changing needs of the consumer. I've bought some clothes with you, I've spent a certain amount of money, I'm a certain size, I've bought them to fit me. Now, months have gone past, I've changed size, and you will offer me a discount, you will do something for me if I buy clothes from you at this new size. So I essentially now have engaged in a service that gives me money off according to the way I change size as time progresses. Again, a great example of this trend we're calling forgiving by design. And here is perhaps the ultimate example, the unbeatable example of this trend, forgiving by design. This is Tesla. They did something amazing. They helped people in Florida who were in the Hurricane Irma zone. They helped them escape that zone by automatically, essentially, pushing an upgrade to them that unlocked the full battery and range power in their Tesla for free. So this is a software upgrade that goes out to your Tesla. It increases the range, I think, by up to about a third. It usually costs about $10,000. They did it for free if you're a Tesla owner in the Hurricane Irma zone. Okay, so a brilliant example of what we would call forgiving by design, of post-purchase adaptation around the changing needs of the consumer. Of course, not every product is going to be able to work this way. If you buy clothes, you can't auto-magically update them. You can't push a software update to a t-shirt that will make it change around the needs of the consumer. So if your product is a physical product that's totally analog, you can still apply this trend by turning that product into a rolling service that adapts around the needs of the consumer, just like this brand did. Of course, if your product is connected, if your product is a smart product, a physical object that is online, then there is no excuse for you. You should be thinking about this version of forgiveness by design, which is about pushing upgrades, pushing enhancements, pushing improvements that update the product you've sold around the needs of the consumer as they change. Take a light bulb moment there, because this is a hugely powerful trend for 2018 that's tapping into the evolution of customer service and rocketing high expectations of consumers when it comes to customer service and their customer experience with you as a brand. Okay, and that's a hugely challenging set of expectations to address in 2018, but this trend gives you a very intriguing and unusual angle on those expectations and how to serve them. Okay, now racing on to our final trend, trend number 5, is a big idea to end on. And the idea is founded in one word: transparency. We lived in 2017 through the beginnings of a watershed moment, a tipping point moment for transparency. I promised you we'd come back to the slide, and we saw huge inner turbulence at Uber. Okay, the turbulence we saw at Uber in 2017 was not about the product or the service, it wasn't about the price, it wasn't about the delivery, it was about things to do with the inside of Uber, what's happening inside Uber's four walls. We saw inside Uber's four walls, and millions of people didn't like what they saw. They saw a culture of bullying and sexism. They heard things about Travis, the CEO, that they didn't like, and his behavior compounded when he shouted at his own Uber driver, as you see him doing here. And in the end, Travis had to go. That's how powerful that sentiment was around what people saw. Okay, it did for Travis, which is pretty huge. And then, of course, much more recently in the year, welter of fairly horrifying stories about the behavior of Harvey Weinstein and others toward women that has rightly lit the spark on a global movement, #MeToo, women sharing their stories, demanding transparency, demanding that these people are brought to account. And we've seen just how powerfully a connected society rewrites rules around hidden information and transparency. We've seen how it empowers people who have been wronged to come together, to listen to one another, to move in unison, so that it's insisted upon that they are believed. They're too loud to not be believed. We've seen how a connected society and platforms like Twitter, of course, make that possible in new ways. And it amounts to a hugely powerful new moment for transparency and for the consumer arena. We talked about this a lot this year. We talked about how a connected society, a more transparent society, has turned the four walls around your business to glass. Okay, we talked about how your business used to be a black box, now it's a glass box. People can see all the way inside. And because people can now see your internal culture is now a part of your public-facing brand. That is the key shift that we talked about a lot this year. Internal culture is now a part of your brand. And why does that matter? It matters because people care deeply. Values as a brand align with theirs. So we talk a lot about a model of status as who I am as a person. I want people to see me as smarter, more ethical, more connected. than the rest, and more ethical is one of the key things there, that people want others to see them as having values that are good, that are ethical, that are productive for all of us. And so when they engage with a brand or business, it's hugely important to them that that is telling a positive story about who they are to the world. And the upshot of that is that brands must share my values as a consumer. Okay, if I have a model of status that's all about who I am as a person, and part of that model is I am a more ethical person than the rest, then I want to engage with brands that tell that story about me, brands that have positive values. And now I can see deep inside a brand, okay? It's not just about the values that a brand broadcasts to the world, the values that brands want others to think they have. It's about the values that everyone can see deep inside that brand. Internal culture of a business becomes hugely important to me. I want its values to align with my own, so that when I engage with a brand, I tell a positive story to the world about who I am as a person. We call that idea glass box brands. You can go and read about it in our TrendWatching quarterly section on the website. I just want to share one tactic with you for 2018 to deal with a world where your internal culture has become your brand. If you're a premium client, you have the digital version of the Trend Report already, you can read about the 3 tactics we put in front of you for 2018. Running out of time, so I just want to share one here, and that is write a manifesto. Write a manifesto about your own internal culture and about the change you want to bring to your industry, and share that manifesto with the world. And then, of course, act on it, of course. But writing a manifesto about your own internal culture and about how your industry should change can be a hugely powerful way to show consumers in a transparent world that your values align with theirs, that your internal culture is a positive internal culture, so that when they engage with you as a brand, they can feel good about that. Examples of this in 2017, just a couple I want to put in front of you. This is like a consortium of big French fashion labels in September 2017 came together to write a really powerful manifesto about fashion models in the high fashion, the catwalk fashion industry. And they made a number of statements about the past and where fashion has gone wrong in using models that are underweight and underage and not presenting a healthy image to other young women, and made a series of commitments about saying we will only use models that are, adults and that are a healthy weight and so on. We've committed to do this. This is what our internal culture is about now. We believe that the rest of the industry should take this on too. Okay. Now that is not a set of acts that directly impacts on the customer in any way. When you buy the clothes from these brands, they're the same clothes, they're the same price, they're made in the same way. But what it does is radically change the way you feel about these businesses, because you now feel that they have an internal culture, or they're building an internal culture and a set of values inside that internal culture that are hugely positive, that you can feel good about. And when you engage with them as a business, you can tell yourself, and you're telling the world by extension, a great story about who you are as a person. Yes, I love high fashion. Yes, I love luxury, but I also care about society. I care about human beings. And when I buy these clothes, I tell that story. Positive changes to your internal culture in this way is such a powerful play in 2018, and writing a manifesto is a great way to do it. Another very similar example, June 2017, we saw Danone, the huge food holding company, a whole ton of household brands, Activia, Evian, and more. Again, they relaunched a number of these brands around a manifesto they wrote internally. They sort of crowdsourced input from 50,000 staff. They put together a manifesto about the future of food in terms of health and sustainability. They said, this is what our internal culture is about now. We believe the entire food industry should move in this direction, but this is what we're doing now. And we're relaunching a number of our brands around this manifesto. Just like with the previous example, it doesn't change the food you're buying, doesn't change the nature of the food you're buying necessarily, but gives you story about who this company is, what it believes, what it stands for, that allows you to feel good about engaging with them when you buy their products. And that's why making any kind of positive internal change to your culture in 2018 can be your most powerful marketing play, can be your most powerful way of reaching out to consumers ahead. And writing a manifesto and sharing it with the world and then acting upon it too is a great way to do that in the year ahead. But I would love you, dive into Glassbox Brands Online, take a light bulb moment from this trend. We're at a watershed moment for transparency. It's a hugely profound shift just in the nature of what a business is. When the walls have turned to glass and everyone can see deep inside you, take that trend to your team in 2018 and ask what it means for you, how you can change your internal culture positively in this environment and turn that into an amazing story for your business. Okay, that is more than enough from me. I hope those 5 trends give you profound food for thought and inspiration to take to your team either before the end of the year or very early into the new year, so you can act on these trends and you can innovate around them. Again, if you're a premium client, dive into your digital version of the 2018 Trend Report. You'll see more innovations attached to these trends, more insights, more statistics, and you'll see a whole range of other trends too, right across our mega trend framework of 16 mega trends. You can keep tracking these trends all year long inside our premium service. We'll be continuing to look out to the consumer arena, spot new examples of these trends, and send them into our premium service database for you to keep tracking. And of course, we chop up our innovations and our trends and our insights in all kinds of useful ways for you premium clients, not least according to 16 B2C industries: automotive, electronics, fashion, luxury, food and beverage. So you can dive into those reports too and get an angle on what these trends mean for your industry. And don't forget, as if you ever would, that if you're not yet a premium client, still special to us because you're a part of this audience. Thank you so much for tuning in. And because you tuned in, we wanted to do something very special for you, just a little something special. So we've put forward this promo code, webinar10. You can go to trendwatching.com and get 10% off the premium service for 2018, 10% off the early bird price for our 2018 seminars, London, Amsterdam, New York, Singapore, Stockholm. They're going to be amazing. Download of the trends, the tools, the insights that you need to prosper in 2018 will be going on at those seminars. I can't wait for them. I hope I see you there. But you can use this promo code webinar10 for, not forever, maybe for a week or two, to get 10% off the early bird price. So go to trendwatching.com, check it out. Of course, trends mean nothing, and almost all of you know this already because I know I've spoken to you so many before. They mean nothing unless you apply them. Trends are useless if you just sit there knowing them. Trends are not supposed to be good to know or interesting. You have to get to work to apply these trends, to innovate, create new products, new services, new campaigns, entire new brands in 2018 if these trends are going to be meaningful. You can go to trendwatching.com and check out our consumer trend canvas. This is a free tool that you can use to unpack a trend, analyze a trend, and turn a trend into concrete new innovation ideas for your business. So if you want to get to work straight away, just go to the website, download this tool. It will hold your hand through the process of turning a trend idea. Of course, it's best if you do it with your team. It's a great way to run a workshop for the end of the year or early in January, February 2018. And I'll be writing on LinkedIn all through the rest of this year and next year about the trends I've talked to you about today and many other trends too. If you're interested in how these trends are evolving and my take on them, check me out on LinkedIn. That's where I do a lot of my writing. It only remains to say thank you so much for tuning in. It's been super fun talking to you. I hope you take at least one of these trends and get to work. Build something new that customers love in 2018. These trends can empower you to do just that, and that is super exciting. But from me, for now, if I don't speak to you beforehand, have a great Christmas and a great new year. Enjoy your holiday. Come back to 2018 refreshed. You in the new year. Thanks so much for listening. Goodbye.